how can we revitalize this community through development is what we're looking to achieve.
Stay motivated. I have a very special episode. Mentor to me, mentor to many. Really, man, changed my life, changing a lot of lives out here in South Baton Rouge. I'm not gonna do a crazy intro, but I'm gonna let you, dig a little deep. You know what I mean? And tell them your name and everything.
Man, Anthony Kimble, originally from a small town called Morganza, Louisiana, but mostly grew up in Baton Rouge. Went to high school here, went to University High. Left here for some years while I attended Stanford, playing ball, finishing school, did some things in the corporate world, and decided to come back home to communities that I grew up in that I love to look to make an impact.
All right, so let's backtrack a little bit. So after high school, well, where did you go to high school?
Went to University High School, LSU Laboratory School, for people that are not from the Baton Rouge area.
Okay, and after that, where did you go?
So after that, accepted a full football scholarship to Stanford University. Had a redshirt year, so I spent about 4.5, 5 years at Stanford, finishing my degree and also competing on the football field.
Okay, and let's talk about really the change coming from Baton Rouge going to Stanford. How was that change for you?
I mean, one thing I was blessed with that especially through my education, I was able to see different levels of wealth. Coming from an inner city public school like Estruma High School where I started 9th grade, then being able through the Temple family, College Temple, junior mainly, being able to attend University High School, I saw a different level of wealth than I had seen growing up in just Baton Rouge, just in the neighborhoods I grew up in. So for me, that was the first place that education really gave me access to network and ecosystem. And then Stanford did that again, leaving high school, coming from a place like UI, you have classmates that you consider rich. And when I got to Stanford, I had classmates that, was from all over the world, and these people truly came from what I consider wealthy backgrounds. So that was things like that, and for a kid opens your eyes up to like what's attainable and like what you aspire to be. So seeing people doing things at the level that they were doing through their parents at UI gave me something different to aspire to. And then going to a place like Stanford through my teammates, my classmates, and internships I was blessed to work with. I was able to work with it both and working both as asset management and private equity as an intern in college. And this for me gave me higher things to aspire to be versus what I had seen, growing up, in a place like Morganza or just, being from Baton Rouge. I was able to see a level of wealth that not a lot of people are able to achieve in life, and that, gave me different things to aspire for.
Gotcha. So let's talk about where did you go after graduating from Stanford?
Man, after graduating from Stanford, we were in the heart of a recession. So this was 2009. So, for me, and it goes back to network. So originally after Stanford, I had a girlfriend living in Chicago. One of my close friends, Tyrus Thomas, was playing for the Bulls. So I was blessed to have some time in a place like Chicago to just go figure it out. And I had parents, where I was go between Chicago and Baton Rouge, staying with my parents, and I was trying to figure it out. And then through Jesse Rogers, the guy, I worked at Golden Gate Capital, which at that time was one of the top private equity firms in the world. He was able to make some connections to colleagues he had at Accenture, and I was able to get a consultant job at the height of the recession. This was probably like 2010 going into 2011. So, that shows you, one, what having a great network does for you, and also treating people right, and also doing your best, that when it comes time for people to recommend you for stuff, it makes sense for them to do. And, with them putting their name and their reputation on the line, that you're gonna, back that up by your performance once you get that opportunity.
Gotcha. So where did it click really for you to make that transition to real estate, or to at least work and try to invest in real estate?
Man, the crazy thing, so real estate started for me, man, in houses that look a lot like this community, but it's, you know, a community in North Baton Rouge called Bird Station. And I made some money in the corporate world working at Accenture, and I bought my first house just on the direction of my mom. But, you know, for me, I'd seen real estate since a kid, you know, and people that look like us being successful in real estate, from College Temple Jr., you know, old man college, as we use sometimes. I saw, you know, growing up in high school level, I saw him being successful in real estate. And, you know, being in college, I had other people that looked like us I saw doing real estate. So when it came time to invest for me, I felt I understood real estate more than some of these public market things like stocks and mutual funds. But really, at that point, real estate was kind of more of my side thing that I did to really make money. Where it really started clicking for me is, one, seeing the impact that fixing up a house and all that could have on a tenant, and then two, for me, it was really a situation where after Accenture, I went to working in the sports marketing world for an agency. And honestly, you know, another thing that really pushed me into real estate was, 2016, 2017 is, man, I got a call and I got fired. You know what I mean? So for me, it was like, I thought sports would be my way. And crazy, before I got fired, more and more, probably 6 months before that, I was realizing being an age and working in the sports world, working with athletes just wasn't fulfilling for me. So I kind of was forced into real estate by being fired. But the good thing also at that time, real estate kind of saved me, because I had a property in New Orleans and some properties in Baton Rouge that I was renting out, that I was able to, you know, sustain during that time of, you know, trying to figure it out. So got fired, went back, decided to go back to school and get my master's.
So while you were fired, can you just elaborate on, talk about really like the mind space, and like what did you do during that time to really plot and get like the next move?
Man, it's crazy. I made a post about it this morning. I think the thing that probably helped me the most was I have a very solution-based thought process, was that, and crazy enough, in like the last 6 months to a year, I just started telling a story about me being fired, because the person that fired me at that time was one of my closest friends that I was working for. So it was a thing that impacted the relationship. It also impacted me business-wise. But for me, it became a thing of like, okay, real estate's something that's already bringing in revenue for me. I'm getting rent checks from some of these inner city properties that, you know, at that point I owned. So for me, it wasn't even a pivot. It was one of those things that, like, hey, I just need to put more bandwidth into that and figuring it out. So one of my first moves was, okay, I need to go back to school, which, looking back, more was a validation thing that I don't think I really needed. A lot of the business that I had already started doing, I was doing while I was in school. But, you know, you get a master's, it was a thing that I felt at that time validated me to be doing the stuff that I wanted to be doing. And also for me, I coach youth. I have a grassroots basketball program, AAU basketball program, and for me too, it was setting the example for the kids. The reason why, you know, I wanted to go back to school. But for me, it's from there I realized too, I had the network. I graduated from Stanford. I was at Tulane at the time. I had always did right by people and treated people I felt, you know, as I wanted to be treated. So as I started looking to get more in real estate, I need capital. You need access to capital. I was, you know, early on being self-employed. You need access to credit. So I realized the network I had, and really started tapping into that Stanford network of people I, you know, went to school with. I graduated in 2008, so I was almost a decade at this point out of school. So those, you know, kids I started, you know, we were around 30 or in our early 30s. They started making money. All their parents had money. So I really used that network as to become my investor base. And I just grew from there. I mean, we started raising money like 2018. And I say we because it's never been just about me. It's always been a team of people that have helped me and added value. And now, you know, 5 years later, we've raised, you know, probably between $8 and $9 million. Just really focusing on that network, really, of people I already knew. And then, you know, I was able to meet people like Julian Guard, Tevin Wade, and different people that, you know, were helping me to continue the scaling. But figuring it out was realizing the social capital I had in a place like Baton Rouge and the social capital I had built at places like Stanford, to use that to build an investor base to execute, the vision that I had. First project, Nelly Avenue, Bird Station. I almost said bought that property for $11,000. Ended up putting, I think, like $15,000 in it. A lot of the work I just kind of went over there and did myself, as far as like cleaning it out and stuff, and kind of just did piece by piece as I got some money, because at that time I was like 24, 25, working at Accenture. But after we finished, so we're probably like 27, 28,000 all in. We ended up renting that property for $650 a month for about a year. After a year, started having some problems with the tenant. So end up selling the property for like 42,000. So end up making like 15 grand. And I owned the property all cash. So most of the money that over that year was just like cash flow. But that was my first property that had solid cash on cash return. I was only about 27,000, 28,000 all in, and I was bringing in $650 a month. And then when I sold it, I was able to make $15,000, $20,000. But it all started with a little single family house on Nelly Street in Bird Station, literally. And I bought it because my parents owned the property across the street, and they were doing some work, and the house came available, and my mom told me to buy it. So really, that was just really my reasoning for buying it, was more at my mom's direction. But that was the first project ever executed.
And they really planted that seed for you, because they were in the game for a while, huh?
Yeah, so my parents actually got into real estate more when I was in college. They finally didn't have tuition to pay anymore for high school, so my mom became a real estate agent right along the time I was about to leave off to Stanford. As really, for her, she was just trying to make some money to be able to come to my games. And then they went from there to buying a couple just duplexes, single family houses, just as being agents, but would buy properties when they became good deals. And what ended up happening that really benefited them was Katrina. They owned properties in Baton Rouge, and Katrina happened. So with that being, having a rental property at that time was like having a lottery ticket. So properties that were literally rent for double, probably what they typically rent for. So a natural disaster for them was what really helped their real estate stuff take off.
You really could have went somewhere else. You could have found another job. Really, what made you choose Baton Rouge to come? Because you're doing a lot of investing that we're going to go over, but
So 2012 is when I first started buying properties in Baton Rouge. So when this, getting fired and the transition happened, I was 5 years into real estate, 4 or 5 years. So I had properties, I already had started doing stuff in Baton Rouge. So, and to take it a little earlier, why I really focused on Baton Rouge, because the first place I really started looking at buying property was Houston. And some of those properties now, looking back 12 years later, I wish I would have bought, but a big part of it was the social capital I had here. I had relationships with, from going to U-High, a lot of these kids I went to school with, their parents were influential. My parents had a relationship. I had a mentor like Hollis Temple Jr. who has a ton of relationships and a great ecosystem in Baton Rouge. So for me, I think it was realizing that my social capital was here. And then also I knew I had access to the financial capital. So, putting those things together, I felt made it more efficient and made me more capable of doing things here versus being in a place like Houston that was going to take years to build the relationships that I have here.
Gotcha. And I know you just spoke about your mentor. How do you feel that relationship with your mentor really changed your life?
It changed my life in the sense of like I was able to see people that looked like us earlier being successful in business, and that gave me different things to inspire. Also, along with my parents and some of my friends, some of their parents. I had a group of friends that came from, some of them came from really solid backgrounds, affluent backgrounds, where their parents were either pastors, business owners, real estate owners. So that gave me something to see and aspire to outside of being an athlete, being a being a rapper or selling dope, which is typically what you see a lot in these neighborhoods. So that showed me a vision of what I was capable of as a black man very early on in my life. And then another great thing, Coach Temple, he was I call him Coach Temple, call him Pro. he was early on, and you don't realize the impact that some things happen until you're older and you're able to look back. We would play Monopoly a lot, and then we would ride around Baton Rouge, and he would ask questions about different properties and how those properties related to Monopoly. And that early on gave me an education of like what was considered prime real estate, what was considered, maybe mid-level, middle income type real estate, like how all these things work together. So that was a blessing early that I had someone who gave me something to aspire to, but also was willing to give me game. And still to this day, he gives me game and also gives me a ton of connections that I'm able to use to be able to push my business forward.
Definitely. And just to elaborate more on what you said about representation matters, because as you know, I am Anthony's project manager, but really we went to the same grad program, and me being a black male, I'm looking for black people in the program to just really see, is this really real, is this really worth it? And I saw Anthony, he was one of the only people I really saw, and dig a little deeper and just love what he was doing. And it motivated me to pursue the program. I feel like it was more beneficial for me, a lot beneficial for me. But really, man, reaching out to him during the program, I actually reached out through the director, and it wasn't a good time. So then I was like, you know what, I'm gonna just try to meet up with him. So I saw you were gonna be somewhere, and I think it was at Club Revolution.
Yeah.
I ran up on you, and you told me, if you need anything, just holler at me. And I was the wrong person to tell it to. You know what I'm saying? So I really kept reaching out to you, and really, man, probably like a couple days after graduation during COVID, I just started working with you, shadowing under you, and just letting you know that representation really changed my life, man. Really, and how it just trickled down. You know what I mean? And elaborate really what we're doing out here in Baton Rouge and how you really chose it. So I really see the bigger picture and really appreciate it, man.
I'm glad I was able to do it. I mean, first of all, appreciate that energy, and I'm glad I was able to do that, for you. But that's also, people always like, man, you give a lot of game, you're willing to help people, and for a big reason is, people like College Temple helped me. You know what I mean? I've had people, go out their way to make sure, that actually, look like me. And, my thing is, I'm willing to, do those things for you because my hope is that you continue that cycle. You know what I mean? And that's how we build ecosystem, and that's how we truly empower, each other, is continuing that cycle of like empowering, and I mean, the real other part is like nepotism is real, you know what I mean? In the sense of, a lot of times people that are getting hired come from networks of people so that's another big part of what we're looking to do in these Baton Rouge communities, is empower people that look like us to be able to do what we do and then continue that cycle.
Definitely. And not to jump up into that as a vet, because we're going to do like a part 2 in New Orleans, but just to focus on Baton Rouge, I know I see 2 projects you are a part of already.
Yep.
If you can elaborate on those.
So, I mean, I was blessed to be able to live in Houston, spend a lot of time in Chicago, travel to these cities between 2008, 2014. And what you saw in a lot of these bigger metropolitan areas, these bigger municipalities, was that the areas near, these historic black areas near downtown that had been de-invested for 30, 40 years, those areas people were starting to gentrify those areas. It made more sense on access to downtown, access to freeways. People wanted to live in more walkable communities. Something I realized being from a smaller to mid-sized city like Baton Rouge is that typically in all trends, we're typically 10 to 15 years behind what you're gonna see in some of these bigger cities. So I was able to see that in that time and understand that some of these same things were gonna happen in Baton Rouge, because that's just how cities were developing. People wanted to be closer to work. People realized that living sometimes, and this is not all people, that, sometimes driving an hour and a half from the suburbs, that's not what I want to do. So I was able to identify historically black neighborhoods in Baton Rouge that were around downtown, most specifically Old South Baton Rouge, this area off Government Street, and say, hey, some of these things are probably gonna happen. And then I started getting into the know. Comes back to social capital. I knew the council members, I know the mayor, I went to high school with her kids, so I used those relationships to understand what's about to happen in these areas. So, we're looking at this street and these bike lanes, these were things that were planned 7, 8 years, 10 years ago. But by being in the know and being in the right ecosystem, I was able to find out these things and build those relationships to get involved in a project like Electric Depot, and then be able to purchase properties like 1440 Government in this lot, and really focus on this Government Street area because I understood the trends that were happening around the country as far as development, and I understood the plans that the city of Baton Rouge already had for this corridor. And I understood that, you know, accessible to freeways, accessible to downtown, something that's developing into a walkable neighborhood. I was able to understand these things because I saw it happening in other cities, and that these same things, and you know, 7-8 years later, well, I started buying property in this neighborhood a decade ago. These things over the last 5 years, these things have started to happen, and this area is starting to develop and become what it once was. This used to be a thriving neighborhood with businesses on the commercial corridor and home ownership within the neighborhood. And honestly, that's all we're looking to rebuild. We're not looking to, you know, recreate the wheel or anything. The assets in the buildings are still here. The people are still here. How can we revitalize this community through development is what we're looking to achieve. This is my mom, Iris Kimble, one of the people, that first property on Nelly Street. This was, you know, who definitely pushed me to buy that property. They own property right across the street and a couple properties down the street. So, you know, forever grateful for that from my mother, you know, being the one that really pushed me to get into real estate. And when did you, were you already a real estate agent when I was in high school, or did you start when I was in college?
In college.
Okay. Okay. And it really was just more just looking for make money to come to the games and stuff, really, huh?
Absolutely.
And I heard you never missed a game. Is that true?
That's true.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I traveled every weekend for football season.
5 years.
5 straight years? Oh
Friday,
man.
I was catching my flight.
She came to the games even when I wasn't playing my red shirt year.
Really?
On Friday night I was getting on the plane. On Sunday night I was coming back to that. Oh,
man.
Yeah. That was the life.
When did y'all buy y'all first property?
In 2006.
Okay, so y'all bought y'all first property after Katrina.
Yes.
Okay, so y'all, okay.
And what was that at? Was that in New Orleans, you said?
In Brookstown.
Okay, okay.
Still got it.
Now, today you are one half of Blue House Construction.
Yes.
And you're doing a lot of projects out here as well, and you're our main in-house construction company. How's it been going for you?
It's been very busy. It's picking up a tremendous amount due to all of the properties he's buying. I'm just forever grateful for the business. Yeah. It's really, really busy.
Yeah.
How many properties do y'all still currently own?
We own 11.
11. Okay.
Of our own. So I have that going on, I have Blue House stuff going on, picking up some other contracts, so just staying busy.
Now, if you could describe your son in one word, what would it be? Tremendous. Tremendous?
He's just so knowledgeable.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's just a walking encyclopedia. Anytime I need something, I'm constantly, what do you think about this? Can I do this?
Yeah.
What do you think? Mom, stop calling me. But hey, what do you think though?
Lady calls me all the time. Early in the morning, late at night.
Like, I got this, what you think about it?
Oh, man.
No, tremendous walking encyclopedia of knowledge that's willing to assist not only his inner circle, but others as well.
Definitely. We just talked about that.
That was a phrase. That wasn't the word.
I mean, I had a lot to say.
No, that's good. No, that was good.
Appreciate you, boss.
All right.
All right,
love you, Mom.
love you. See y'all later.
All right, Cyrus. And taking on that responsibility, can you just talk about a lot of, or just maybe like a couple of the struggles as of now, you know, just being that leader, you know what I mean, and making that change?
I mean, to whom much is given, much is required. In a sense of that, like, it is a challenge. You're not only like you're reprogramming the way people think. You know, you're changing what has been visual in a neighborhood. So while there are challenges, and getting the people on board, getting the city on board, especially when you're revitalizing old buildings and stuff like that. So there are challenges in like just bringing a bunch of people. Like, this is not just about Kimble Properties. This is not just about Reggie. It's not about that. This is about this community. So with that, we need buy-in from local government. We need buy-in from people in the community. We need buy-in from other developers. We're only one of the seats at the table. for us, you know what I mean, as that table was destroyed the last 30, 40 years in this neighborhood, I feel like it's on us to rebuild that table and then bring the right partners to that table, because everybody does have a seat and you know, does add value. So now how can we rebuild this table and then bring the right people to this table that are beneficial to this community is what we're looking to create.
Stereotypes are, oh, you can't work with family and this and that. How do you feel about that? I mean, honestly, beating the odds on that.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's not really beating odds, because if you you talk to people, especially outside of people that look like us, like that is a unheard of myth. You know what I mean? When you look at, you know, Asian families, white families, you know, for other nationalities, really the family is the foundation for the business base. You know, when I start a business, you know, the resources from that business adds value to my family. But as my business grows, and you go into a lot of these firms, family office firms, institutional, you know, lenders and stuff like that, you know, where we consider corporate business. These people are staffed by family and friends and relationships and people that they have relationships to with. So, you know, we're, you know, kind of one of the last people that really, you know, kind of buy into that myth, because the reality is most other races, the family, you know, the family base is the foundation of what they're doing business wise and investment wise, and families and friends invest together. So the other part about that is, a lot of times when people say stuff about me, my rebuttal right back to them is, okay, what family you had a business with? You know what I mean? And it's like, a lot of times the people that's spreading that myth is people that have no experience or, you know, doing business with their family. And the other part about that too, I always tell people when I first get into business with them, are we doing business for the first time? And it's true, everything that we do together probably won't work. You know, there are going to be some deals that work, there are going to be some things that don't work out. You know, my thing from people is, what I look for is, when I work with people, is that you're giving it your best shot, and you're doing it with the right energy, and you use all of the resources you had available to you. And if you're doing all of those things, you know what I mean, you gave it your best shot. So with that being said, like, that's all you can ask. And also, there's sometimes extenuating circumstances with business that some things just don't work out. So, you know, I just tell people I go into business with the right energy, but I'm also aware that every deal I do won't always work out.
Yeah. And that way you really have to be strategic about your partnerships and things like that.
Well, you have to be strategic. You have to make sure, you know, that, you know, everyone's bringing something to the table, and that, you know, that there's processes and systems in place for us to be successful. You know, that's a lot of what we're, you know, building right now at Kimble Properties. As you know, we're still a very infant company as far as, you know, how long we've been in life. So it's now, you know, we have opportunity, we have resources. Now, you know, putting those process systems and processes in places that allows us to scale. So 1440 government, what we're looking to achieve there is bringing commercial and business back to this commercial corridor. So we're looking at a breakfast place, coffee shop that will go in the front of the building, office space on the second floor, and then the rest of the building will be event space. And we're going to open kind of a lounge, looking to open a lounge type bar space called SIP. But for us, you know, one part is bringing places where people can congregate back into this neighborhood, bringing jobs back into this neighborhood, and bringing activity back along this commercial corridor. It's really, you know, what, you know, our goals are for looking at that Valley House project that's going to be located at 1440 Government.
Yeah. And last one, my favorite project thus far that we're about to get into in like 60 to 90 days, the one we're standing on, Lincoln Hotel. If you can just elaborate on that. I know it's been vacant since like 1985.
Yeah, so Hotel Lincoln was one of the first black hotels in Baton Rouge. It was a hotel, and they had the Lincoln Dining Hall, the restaurant at the, you know, on the first floor. This place, the greats have touched this place. You know, historically, Dr. Chapman was the builder of this and the Lincoln Theater. So historically, when acts such as Aretha Franklin, James Brown, some of the greats of that period would come in town for the Chitlin circuit or, other, performances. You would perform at the Lincoln Theater, which is right across from my office, and you would stay at the Hotel Lincoln, which was 46 rooms and they had shared bathrooms and stuff on each floor.
And our plans and goals forward are what are we doing? If you elaborate?
12. So what we're going to look to execute here is 12 one-bedroom apartments, so residential apartments, and then on the first floor we'll have 2 commercial bays.
Okay.
That are local.
All right. So I know I asked you the challenges that come with being that leader in developing this area. What are a lot of the positives that come with that?
Man, I'll say that the biggest positive for myself is that I get up every day and I feel like I'm walking in my, well, I shouldn't say I even feel like, I know I'm walking in my purpose. As far as being someone that's part of a team that's bringing resources back into the South Baton Rouge area. And that's something that gives me fulfillment, that's something that gives me joy. And also I realized with, something I talked about earlier was my network, people I'm connected to. And I realized that, I was well positioned to be one of those people that, I'm bringing Wall Street money into South Baton. I'm bringing private equity money from the West Coast into South Baton Rouge. And if it wasn't for some of the relationships I have with these people, they'll never invest in Baton Rouge. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it took a lot for me to get people to believe in Baton Rouge, because we don't have the sexiness of, Houston, Dallas, Austin, some of these bigger municipalities. But, I was able to show our investor base that we can, we can make a solid return here, and also we can impact people. And I think, that's some of the things, a huge positive for me. Another positive, is being able to employ people like yourself and see you guys go from getting your start to finding your path. Able to work with, my parents. You know what I mean? So people that look like me, I'm able to empower and see them able to not only change their life, but change their family's life. And like, that's the other super important part to me, and something that brings me joy. And I think, next for us is, how do we use the things we're doing to empower the folks that already live in this neighborhood, as far as job creation, and just also giving the kids that live in this neighborhood something different to aspire to be. I recently on one of my sites had, we have a teenager that's working with us, it's like, man, hopefully one day, I could be our maintenance man. And, my rebuttal to him was like, no, we're gonna aim higher than that. Like, how about you figure out, we teach you to be an electrician, a plumber, you make some money doing that, and then you start your own company or something one day. So I think for me, that's the next, that workforce development piece is really the next big piece. And that's gonna be, that's why I think while, the Valley House at 1440 is important, it's equally important to this Julia Street studio that we're gonna look, because the Valley House is gonna create jobs for, waiters, managers, solid paying jobs. What that studio does is create, opportunities to get into production, to get into media, to get into building out sets and stuff like that. And those are things that kids can take part in, they can learn, they can, this becomes a career, and now they're a contributing member of society. And it all starts off with just giving them something different to aspire to be.
Definitely. And where would you say that passion comes from?
I mean, the thing I would say a big part of it is, I had someone do it for me in College Temple. And I mean, I saw other people that looked like me, willing to do it for their kids, and people, people that were friends with their kids. So I'm just continuing a cycle, of what was given to me. And, those are the type of cycles and ecosystem that's important to build, because that's how putting our businesses, putting our homes, folks like me and you stand in these neighborhoods, we're the ones that's going to be able to have conversations with the youth, give them real game, and then set them on a path that probably was very different than where they thought they were heading.
Definitely. And I see a lot of kids come, they come looking for you at the office, or they come, asking what we doing at the office and things like that. So I definitely see the change, and I feel like this will be like a case study that'll be studied years from now, you know?
Yeah, and I mean, the biggest part of it is, I even tell them kids, like, my upbringing is not a lot of different than theirs. The only difference I had was, that's sometimes different, you know, was parents that were willing to not give up, you know, and figure it out. You know, my mom had, I was born, my mom was in high school, you know, neither one of my parents graduated from college, but my parents refused not to figure it out, you know what I mean? Some of these kids don't have that parental structure, so they're looking for that mentorship and their guidance from other folks in their community. And the reality is of 20 or 30, 40 years ago, with looking at our black communities, it was the whole community that was raising kids. And the part of it is, we just have to get back to that of always looking to add value to those folks within your community. And I mean, that's just what we're, you know, looking to do now, is just add value and share the resources that we have access to some of these youth. And, you know, some of that benefits our project now, because a lot of these kids are taking part and working on our projects and helping with demo and stuff like that. But the bigger part is what it's going to give those kids as far as aspiration and what they think they can be. And like I tell you, I was born in a trailer, you know, in a small town of 1,200 people, like, you know, real poverty. My mom refused that to be how it ended up for me. And I'm just trying to give that to some of these kids that we interact, you know, in this community, is that, hey, like, let me help you figure it out, but also let me help you understand that someone just like you can, and you could be don't be like me, be better than me. You know what I mean? And that's always my, don't be like me, be better than me, because with the right work ethic, understanding network, and understanding how life and business work, these kids are just as capable of it. But if you never believe that, you know, it's hard to think you're capable of that.
Especially if they don't see it, you know?
Yeah, if they don't see it, I'll never see it. If all I see, if the only people I ever see that are able to drive a Mercedes is a rapper, a drug dealer, or an athlete, I mean, those are naturally the things I'm gonna aspire to be, because the type of cars I want and the type of life I want to live, you know, we all want nice things. That's the only people that I'm able, you know, that I'm seeing that's able to accomplish that. So for us, putting our homes and our businesses in this community gives these kids a chance to see success through doing business, through real estate, through consulting, through construction. There's so many different avenues, electrician, plumbers. You know, I was talking to the kids the other day about heavy machinery and the type of money they can make by, you know, understanding how to operate heavy machinery. So there's a wealth of opportunities in real estate and business, but if I never have access or even remotely understand how that works, you know, how can I ever aspire to be that?
What motivates you to wake up every morning?
What motive? I mean, what motive? Is that that I know I'm impacting people's lives. That I know that, like, what we're doing, what we're creating will create a legacy. You know, that our team will be remembered for doing great things and being one of the changes for this community that all of these folks wanted to see. They just really, a lot of times, just don't know how to get it done. So, I mean, that gives me, you know, what wakes me up every morning. You know, another thing I always tell people, like, is this stuff easy? Hell no. Is what we're doing easy? Hell no. Is there some days that I wish that somebody had a check for me on Friday and, you know, that I knew I was getting paid? Hell yeah. But at the end of the day, do I think it will be all worth it in the long run? Definitely. And that's, you know, that's the biggest thing for me, is like, not the now, but what does what we're creating hold for, you know, the business in the future, for my family in the future, and what other people do I empower to do great things? You know, what does my tree look like of people that, you know, I was able to help empower? And like, all of those things is, you know, really, it gives me purpose and gives me fulfillment to keep me going.
Definitely, and I much respect to you, because I mean, I learned what running a business is, and business credit, and so many other things, you know, that comes with that. It's a lot that comes with having a business. It's a lot that comes with, you know, being a business owner. And you know, everybody wants to be the boss until it's time to cut checks. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, man. It's and I mean, I said it earlier, to whom much is given, much is expected, and you know, that's what I look like at my. You know, I've been blessed by the man upstairs with, like, you know, being able to process, being able to have access to resources, and also I think a big part for me is, as black men, realizing that we have a creator within us that we need to tap into to create the life that we want for ourselves and the people around us, and those things just don't happen by chance, and those things happen from preparation, the right team, and you know, willing to put the work in to execute, and you know, that's when great things happen. But yeah, so man, this has a long time been one of my favorite buildings in Baton Rouge. As we talked about before, this government commercial corridor is very important to what we're looking to develop. So you know, this is one of our upcoming purchases, looking to potentially do a boutique hotel. They're still going through our feasibility studies, whether this is going to be some type of boutique hotel or if this would be multifamily. But man, beautiful old building. As you guys know, we love old historic buildings, and really looking to transform this from currently a law office to something that really, you know, continues adding value to this community.
So do you have like a certain number of beds you're looking for or anything like that?
So right now, we've been talking to consultants. We're looking at probably 40 to 50 beds. We actually have Wyndham. They're coming down here really this week to look at the project, to see if, you know, something that they want to be a part of. Gotcha.
So when a big company reaches out, or you reach out to them in that way, if you own it, would that be more of like a sublease or something like that?
Franchise. So we would be the developer, they would be the flag on the building, as far as the operations and stuff like that. Talking to Wyndham currently, they have a program called Bold, where they give operational capital and some development capital to black developers. So that's a program that we're looking at and working with Wyndham. So they'll be out this week to do all their measurements and see the site. We probably had 4 or 5 calls with them. So right now, trying to figure out who, you know, is this something we do independent as a boutique hotel, or do we, you know, partner with a flag? So we have a couple consultants coming in that's kind of giving us advice on what makes sense there. Gotcha.
And I will say, like, in business, like, I mean, I learned a lot of things from you. But one thing, I'll say 2 things. First thing being, never be afraid to be yourself. Just always be you. You know what I mean? No matter what room you're in, no matter where you are, just be you. And the second one, I would say, just being like fearless. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I believe you don't know anything about hotels, but you're fearless enough to know, hey, this is what I think. We can go here. You know, you've done the market research and you think it'd be a good spot for. You know, just not taking risk, you know.
I think another part is just finding good people to work with. I mean, you know, looking at yourself. You know, that's one of the things I look at you. You know, a solid individual, good morals, good values to work with. That's willing to learn. I think that's a big part of it, is realizing that nothing is accomplished alone. So you know, that's a big part of even looking at, you know, these projects. So I don't even know anything about hotels. Only thing I know is when I passed that site over the last 5 years, I always thought in my head, like, that would be a dope boutique hotel. Then, you know, it's about putting a team of people together to first see if that's feasible, because anyone can have a thought on, like, what makes, you know, what they think in their head makes sense. So, you know, our first goal now is to see what's feasible, and then from what's feasible to, like, how do we execute this? And that comes from, you know, and that's something we're continuing to build on and get better at, is finding the right people to make our projects executable. And I think, you know, with a hotel, it's going to be even more important, you know, something that we don't have. We do multifamily, we know how to build multifamily and stuff like that. This is something that's going to be totally different than what we did before. So it's about putting that team together that, you know, that can make sense.
and just being able to put those moving pieces in order in their correct place. I got you.
And that's one of the things too I will say I enjoy about real estate is, you know, looking now we're in front of this electric depot project, which was really the catalyst project for this community, public-private partnership with the city of Baton Rouge. We're one of the co-developers along with David Weinstein, Dyke Nelson, Matt Siraj, a couple, Garrett Temple, Shiloh is involved in this project. So this was really a group effort to develop this site, allow it to be the catalyst project. And we understood for us, you know, and that was the reason why we started buying, you know, properties around here, because we knew this would serve as the catalyst project to get things going back in this community. And for us now, it's about building around this electric depot site and adding amenities to this government street corridor that makes this, you know, all this makes sense. And also our amenities for this community that we're in.
Gotcha. Did you guys complete this before the bike lanes?
Yep, so this was completed, yeah, I want to say probably a whole year more before the bike lane. But, you know, go back to being in the know, we knew these bike lanes were coming 7 years ago. Okay. So, you know, this was, you know, these things don't, you know, these things typically take years to come into fruition. So part of one of the reasons that this community makes sense was that we knew, you know, bike lanes, got the railroad right there, the arms that come down to, you know, keep people from crossing the railroad and keep, you know, people from walking across the railroad. New sidewalks, planters on the sidewalks were all investment that the city was making to start adding life back to this community.
So what do you see Government Street in the next, let's say, 3 to 5 years?
Man, I think, you know, with what we're doing, you have, you know, our guy Cornelius Suarez from Main Lobby. He's about to open a rooftop bar on Government Street. You got our developments at Electric Depot 1440. You got Neil Garrison down here, what he's doing with Parker Salon and other restaurants and nursery at St. Rose and Government. You know, also the things that have come to Government last, Mid-City Beer Garden, Soji. You know, I think we're looking at urban Baton Rouge, inner city Baton Rouge, as far as bars, restaurants, and where, you know, people my age, around my age, you know, 20s, 30s, 40s are going to want to live. If you do want to live in a walkable community, Government Street is going to be the place to be. You know, and the other, you know, kind of big piece to this that, you know, we're looking forward to it happening is a potential train station on Government Street with the commuter train that connects Baton Rouge and New Orleans. That happens, that's a game changer for Government Street and all of the development that's going on Government Street.
Now, when you say game changer, can you elaborate more on how that just would be impactful for this area?
I mean, first of all, the amount of people that a train and a train station, you know, brings into the community as far as parking and getting on this train. You know, typically we've seen around transit properties appreciate significantly when transit comes into the area. If I'm someone that has to commute quite a bit to New Orleans, it probably makes more sense for me to live near this train station. So that's property owners and renters that are going to come into this community. So from the people it brings in the community to the investment the city is going to have to make and the train will have to make for a train station, all of those are things that typically adds to property appreciate around those developments. What's up? How y'all doing this evening? Happy Wednesday. Partying from my office again. That has a whole filming of some show going on outside, so be in my office. What's up, Terrence? What's up, Olivia? How you doing, Sandra? What's up, Austin? How you doing this evening? Good, good. My project manager, Reggie, in here. He's recording. He's been interviewing me over the last week for his YouTube channel. What's your YouTube channel called?
Real Estate Motivated.
Real Estate Motivated. So y'all go to YouTube, check out Real Estate Motivated. Let me pull that up real quick. YouTube. I don't see your channel, bro. You got to get your SEO up, man.
What direction on YouTube?
Okay, we got to go to YouTube. What I do?
Look, wow.
Oh man, you up?
Home page, like home page.
Let me share my screen. So So do y'all see a YouTube channel? Make sure you're seeing, looking at the right screen. See, somebody talk to me. Y'all see my screen? Anybody having trouble seeing my screen?
Yes, I can see it.
See it.
Okay, so yeah, this is Reggie Mead, Real Estate Motivated YouTube channel. So come on, Reggie, man, come up here. Come tell us about your channel, man. Come on, man. Bring Reggie.
How you doing? So yeah, this is my channel, Real Estate.
Your name, man. Your name and what you do, man. Tell us what you do during the day.
My name is Reggie Mead. I am the team development project manager. Yeah, so I've been tracking my journey through real estate personally, and the things I've been doing under Anthony, and the things we've been doing up here. And also, I've been able to interview other Black entrepreneurs in real estate in the city. Just shedding light on what they're doing, but also the main thing is really just shedding light on what we're doing up here. And I have interview with Anthony that I've been doing for the past 2 weeks, so that'll be coming up next. So yeah.
So tell us about this video here, man. Tell us about what we got here.
For this one is a house tour of Alvin Kamara's house. My uncle with Craftsman Builders designed his custom home, and yeah, it was, I believe it was 8,500 square feet. They finished it majority in like 8 months, but took 12 months for specialty items and stuff like that. Yeah, check it out. Let me know what y'all think. If you can. So
yeah, I'll put a link to his YouTube page in the chat. So where we go, how do you put a link to the? Oh, I got it. Look at me. I know how to work all this stuff. So yeah, Reggie, project manager for Kimble Property. So he helps lead all of our development. We really partner together as far as leading a lot of the development work that we're doing here with Kimble Properties. So yeah, Reggie's been recording this real estate videos over, how long ago you started doing this?
A year ago when I moved to Baton Rouge.
Okay, yeah, so Reggie and I met, this was before you went to the Tulane grad program, correct?
This was actually after, when I finished 17.
No, but when we met.
We met, yeah, before.
So yeah, Reggie and I met before when he was getting ready to go to the Tulane program, Sustainable Real Estate Development. Man, what you called me and asked me what my thoughts was on the program?
No, I met up with you at you were doing a speaking event, and I ran up on you, introduced myself, and you said
at Revolution?
At Revolution.
Man, I think I met you and Julian in the same night. Now that I think about it, yeah, actually that same. So once the Dot did that thing at Revolution that time. So you crazy enough. So I met Reggie and Julian the same night. Now that I think about it, crazy enough, met great people that night, man. You guys definitely both have been a tremendous blessing to my life. So yeah, Reggie, we talked about the Sustainable Real Estate program at Tulane, which I previously did the master's program there. And for me, I think, with some of the other things I had going on, the program had some value, definitely helped me networking wise, but it really made me understand that I was capable of probably more than what I was capable of. And I didn't really need this master program, but Reggie also did the program.
And I needed it. So I needed it, and I was able to connect with just people like Anthony and Julian. Yeah, really put those things I learned to use. So,
yeah, man. So Reggie started interning with us. Man, when I knew Reggie was Reggie started interning with us, and literally we threw Reggie like the first month, hey man, I need you to build this house for us in New Orleans, like new construction house, like total new for one of my friends. I was like, imagine I need you to build this house. Man, I'm relocating to Baton Rouge. Me and Tevin, we're doing our thing in Baton Rouge right now, but I need you to build a house. And Reggie, man, built that house where it was crazy as hell. And man, I always tell people, I don't know if I ever told you this, but knew Reggie was down for the cause. Cause I was like, in my head, I was like, man, we're not buying any supplies in New Orleans. Like, how are we've been building for like 2-3 weeks. I hadn't got any invoices for any supplies. Like, how are we buying this stuff? Then about 3 weeks later, I got a reimbursement invoice where Reggie had spent like $9,000. As a college student, I was like, bro, don't ever do that again. But I was like, man, definitely to this day, bro, appreciate that and appreciate the dedication. But yeah, don't do that shit no more. But I definitely, salute him on his dedication to the firm. So came on as an intern. then got promoted to project manager, then ended up moving to Baton Rouge. Leased the house next door to the office, one of the in the triplex we had just developed, and then we developed a duplex for Reggie and sold it to him about 3 months ago now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So sold him a duplex. So he owns his first property on Louisiana Ave. So living in one side, renting out one side. But yeah, man, so he's been, using this series to document his journey in the real estate world, with Kimble Properties and outside of Kimble Properties. So you guys are, my video will be coming up soon. So